Hey everybody. So I'm back here today, this afternoon, to record the assignment that I'd like you to do in terms of our value, understanding value. And you're going to laugh, but I kind of changed the assignment around because I just tried to do it and I found it tricky. So rather than collaging with already painted papers, we're going to do something a little bit different that I think, will probably be a little bit easier. And not that it's easy, simple, but just, make more sense for our class. So I did send you a set of a couple of photographs that are black, white, and gray. This is a value photograph. A drawing that is black, white, and gray would be a value drawing. That is the term that we use so that we know that it is, just about value. It isn't about color. It's about the relative lightness or darkness of a color in a composition. And, you really want to ask yourself the question, what is the lightest thing here? Just as if you were to paint a still life and trying to figure out the values that are in front of you, you would want to say, all right, what is the lightest thing, in the still life? Is it the yellow ball? Is it the, gray table? Everything is in relationship. It's not just the color by itself, but it's how it relates to other things. So in this little picture here, it's nice and simplified, and so you don't have to work too hard to see the big shapes. They're really pretty much already there, but that is something that can get in your way when we tend to look at values from when something has texture or when something isn't just a single color. We get kind of confused, and so it's easy to see too much detail, and then the values that we're trying to get kind of out of whack. So anyway, we will be working more with that, but in any case, let's focus on this little photograph here. So what I did have in mind for you to do, and this part is still what I have from the other assignment, and that is to take this picture and do a little drawing of it that does break down the values that you see here. So what I did is to look carefully at this photograph, and I've decided that the big shapes here are going to be the black that I made. And, I have a pretty good black here. And of course, painting is, the way we did it without adding anything to it, just adding a little bit of water. It's not going to give you a super flat black. That's okay. Don't worry about it. We're working in generalities here. We're doing this mostly to get the feel, to really understand, in a physical way by doing it yourself, how these things relate to each other and how to really kind of observe the change in values. So anyway, I see this shape, this sort of V shape on its side, and continuing on the other side to be the darkest value. And I drew that. You can see here, number 1. So number 1 is going to be my black. This number 2 is going to be the second darkest value, right? Number 3 is the third darkest, which means getting lighter rather, and the 4th is the white of the page. Okay, so we have 1 being the darkest and going to 2 little less dark, 3 little less dark, and then 4 to be the white of the page. So really broken it down to its basics here. And then what I want you to do is paint those values in. So in this one, it was pretty easy to do a sketch. This is not about drawing perfectly. It's really about, trying to see. The other thing that you can do if you have trouble is to, you can trace this, this image. What you can do is in the light of the day, tape this picture to a window, okay? And then put a piece of paper on top of that. And then just trace the shape so it's a little easier for you to see, okay? So now, going back to work here to try to get this as what we see it. I'm going to start with my dark value, and I'm going to take a brush. This is probably a little bit too big. I'm going to go with this little brush. This is a bit better, and I'm going to just paint in this dark value. Okay, so this is a great way to start, and certainly for people, this is their first attempt at it. This is a really good exercise. This really, I think, helps to solidify in your mind what we're talking about. So, of course, as I said earlier, the tricky part is to, do the same thing when you're looking at a color composition, a color photograph, or a color still life, or something like that. So photographs are great. I have no problem using photographs as a place to start. It's not cheating, not at all. We don't think of photography these days as, anything other than a tool, which is what it is. It's a terrific tool for artists to use. In the contemporary world, we have it. They're easy. Everybody has one. Well, I mean, if you have a cell phone, you have a camera, readily accessible, and it really does help us to do some of these things better. So, all right, so that's the number one. Then my second value is one that is slightly lighter, and we're just going to go over this. And this is always a little tricky. Just get out your water. Went a little bit too dark on that. You can always take a piece of a paper towel and lift up your acrylic pretty quickly to get it. And if it's a little too dark, don't worry about it. So this is kind of a little bit like painting by number, but it is a way to, as I said, get a grasp on this value, thing, this whole, idea about, lightness and darkness. Okay, so that's a number two. It already kind of looks like our photograph, right? It's already starting to kind of look like it. So yeah, it's pretty exciting when you start to see it make, kind of happen. It's very thrilling. And then our third lightest, so we're going to try to get a little bit lighter here by adding even more water. That's just a little dark, so I'm going to really wash my brush off here. Let's see. All right, and this too. Yeah. Just looking around for a piece of paper towel, which I don't have right on me. And then number four, which we're going to say is the white of the page. Now, of course, I already wrote this in pen, which is, that's a problem. But, don't worry. Actually, what you can do is even just take a piece of white paper and glue it right on over here to get rid of, if it's unsightly and you don't like it. And then we have number three up here, which, kind of relates to this shape on the top of our landscape. Okay. And I'm just going to, this is the same value as number three. Now I see, that my number two and number three are pretty close, but what I can do is go back to the number two one and just make it a little bit darker. Like actually that ends up being pretty good. So let me just make it a little bit darker. Let's just go ahead and do that. Sometimes you can't really see what the value is going to be until it dries a bit. We just add a little bit more black here so that it blends a bit more and gets closer to the actual value. There you go. So we had two areas of two areas of one, two areas of three areas of three, and two that are going to be just the white of the page. So, it isn't really white, right? Because this is white. So you can really see, it takes a lot to get white. I mean, that's white. it's very close. It's very close. So I'm going to say that using the white of the page, works here. But there you go. Let's see. This is actually flipped a little bit, isn't it? There we go. So that's how it goes. So he's, as you can see, that really has the feeling of this landscape, more or less. And so that's what I would like you to do. I want you to do this kind of thing with the 3 photographs that I sent to you. There are 2 black and white, and then there's 1 color, and that's going to be a fun challenge. So as you see with this, again, you don't have to do a fancy drawing. You can just do a drawing that gets the big shapes. When you look at this, all right, there you go, it's better. Obviously, this area here, the darkest, in the land, would be black, right? Because it is the darkest thing up there. So we can say black works for that area. And then squinting your eye, this is really a tricky thing. What is next in value? I'm going to say that the red in this tree is the next darkest value, right? Even though this purple is pretty dark, it's still not as dark as the tree. So maybe this could be the number 2. Excuse me. Yes, the number 2, right? So this is number 1. Then the second darkest is number 2 here, the treetop. And you can be broad about that. If you want to put this tree trunk down in here in the same value, that's totally fine. Then the next value is obviously going to be this and this. When I squint my eyes, frankly, I hardly see this light green. And for our purposes, let's not even assign it a value. I mean, it is so light that it really does, at least to me, blend in pretty much with the green. So let's just say, for argument's sake, this is going to be the white of the page, right? So we have, this and this being the same. That would be the number 3. This is the number 2, and this is the darkest at number 1. So that's what I mean. Trying to assign, a sort of broad idea of value, right? So it's not just about the color, it really is strongly about the value, and it's such an important thing to know, because when you're trying to mix color, of course, you're trying to make a light color, you need to really be able to see that, or if you need to make it darker, to be able to see that as well. These are things that we're going to be working on in class. So to sum up for next time, I'd like you to do 3 small little paintings using, this broad little color chart that we made, for values that, from black to white. All right, and if you have any questions about that, I know it's a little confusing because I changed our lightest gray to be white. But really, it's to try to simplify things for you so that you're really grasping big areas. That, most important thing is to get it so that you can generalize, that you're not, kind of caught into the specifics and you get too caught up in the detail. It's easy to add value, to change your colors, to make something lighter or darker, especially when you can use white, which you're not yet using. But when you start to be able to do that, changes the game, and you can get more subtlety. But right now, we're going to keep it really simple. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions or problems with it, please reach out and have fun with it. I'll end up with my face. Have fun, and I will see you next Wednesday.